When I first heard the man's story, I didn't want to believe what he was saying, but the burn marks I found on the ground in the garden of that house that day, the shape of the scratches hidden behind the door leading to the basement, and the indescribable uneasiness in the children's eyes were already whispering the truth to me. That's why I'm telling you everything now in full detail, because I was the only one who followed what had been happening in that neighborhood for years. No one spoke, no one admitted anything. Everyone chose to act as if they had forgotten. But I didn't forget. I can't forget, because the moment I understood who that woman was and why she had come there, I knew she was not the ordinary neighbor everyone thought she was. When the man lost his wife 2 years ago, he was struggling to stay on his feet with his 3 children, trying to live in a small 2-story house with a garden in one of Oregon's quiet neighborhoods. The children were trying to get used to their mother's absence, and the man would sit on his chair every night, staring into the void without moving, until the day that woman who had moved into the house next door 5 months earlier knocked on their door. From the very first day, the woman entered the house with a measured warmth. She played games with the children, talked with the man, brought food, helped tidy up their garden, and before anyone realized it, the soft atmosphere of trust she created enveloped all of us. The children loved her. The man gained strength from her. They grew close, and eventually their relationship became a small happiness story whispered around the neighborhood, but I noticed something in her gaze, even though I couldn't find the words to say it. As time passed, an unexplainable heaviness began to wander over the neighborhood. At night, humming sounds were heard at times when the wind should have been silent. Certain parts of the soil in the man's garden would appear strangely raised in the mornings, as if they had been dug up and covered again during the night, and no one could make sense of it. The man began noticing small but disturbing shifts in his girlfriend's behavior. Sometimes the woman stood completely still for several seconds, as if she weren't breathing at all, staring at a single point without blinking. Then she would smile as if nothing had happened and hug the children. The man blamed these things on exhaustion and moved on. But one night, a thin tapping sound coming from the basement startled him awake. When he went downstairs, the sound stopped, yet he noticed a long gray mark on the basement wall that seemed newly formed, as if left by a damp fingernail. A few days later, he saw a thin, tall silhouette moving among the trees in the darkness of the garden, but when he ran to look, there was nothing. So he secretly placed microphones and cameras in the house, because he wanted to know the truth. For weeks, nothing unusual was recorded, until one evening when a shadow moving in the dark corridor appeared on one of the cameras. The shadow resembled a human shape, but its movements weren't natural. It slid rather than walked. When the man enlarged the image, he saw that the face in the darkness resembled his girlfriend. And worse yet, that night the baby's room camera had captured something very clearly. When the woman entered the room, her shadow moved in the opposite direction, as if her shadow didn't belong to the same body and had its own dark will. The man immediately called his girlfriend, but the location data from her phone confirmed she was at her aunt's place downtown. The man rushed to his car, and when he returned home, he saw the figure trying to escape. They came face to face for a brief moment at the door, and the man stepped back 3 full steps in terror, because the eyes staring at him weren't the eyes of a living person. They were gray, dull, expressionless, looking at him from within a rotten silence. The man went to the police, but when they came to the house and found no trace of anything, the neighbors tried to explain the events with words like stress, grief, hallucination. But when I listened to the man's account, I remembered the disappearance cases from years ago in that same neighborhood. The woman had the same name as someone who had lived in that house according to property records 20 years earlier. That woman had vanished suddenly years ago, along with her young children. Their bodies were never found. And now the face of the woman who moved to the neighborhood 5 months ago almost perfectly matched the photo of the woman who had disappeared years before. But she had not aged at all. When the police returned to the house, the woman was already gone. Her belongings were still there, but she herself had vanished. No one ever saw her again. Months later, while I was sitting in a cafe in another city, a father at the next table was laughing with his children. There was a friendly neighbor woman beside them. She laughed, stroked the child's hair, lightly touched the father's shoulder. And the moment I lifted my head and looked, I saw that dull gray shimmer in her eyes. She didn't notice me, but I knew exactly who she was, just as she had left a mark the night she disappeared from our neighborhood. She had now slipped into another life with the same silence, and I am certain no one will ever see her true face, just like we never did.